Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Purple Noon, a podcast. I am Stephanie Conti, and I'm here with no other than user Defoe lover, Savanna Lanausse.
Loud and proud.
And when I say user, I mean in the current app that we are recording right now, she has changed her name in the system to Defoe lover. And just kind of sprung it up on me.
It was a change I had to make. It was a long time coming. This needed to happen.
So let me ask you this, Savanna. First of all, how are you doing?
Good.
You doing good?
Thank
Good.
you.
But with this whole Defoe lover, where does this come from? Where does your love for the Defoe, where does it emerge from?
I think it was Spider-Man, obviously. That would be the first movie I would see him in. I was like 9. And then later on, I would see him in some of his younger roles. And I was like, wow, very versatile. And then it was recently, what was it, the last 3-4 years, he was in a film. Was it no, it's not, it wasn't the Picasso film. It was a different film he was in. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, where doesn't he play like an artist or something like that?
Yes, but it's not Picasso. Hold on. Because he played Picasso at one point.
Didn't he play Pasolini?
Was that?
I'm pretty sure. What didn't he play in like a movie? Didn't he play Pasolini? Why are you laughing at me?
I liked your accent.
Oh yeah, he was in the movie Pasolini where he played Pier Paolo Pasolini.
What year did that come out?
2014.
Did he have dark glasses in the movie?
Yes.
Like that is where it began. Truly.
Oh.
I was in high school and I was like the glass. I think he was just very well dressed in the film.
Yeah, that I can see that. I can see that for sure. But what about the Last Temptation of Christ? Don't do it for you?
Never seen it. Probably never will.
Why?
In my mind, that doesn't exist because I've heard of one particular scene that is like blasphemy, so I can't watch it.
Well, he's also very pale. He's a very pale version of Jesus too, and I don't know about the accuracies. I don't know if
it was his voice in Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Wait, what about? Yeah, okay, but what's your controversy about the Last Temptation of Christ?
There's a scene apparently, like the one. Well, what's everybody's controversy about it? Have you heard?
No.
So, I think it's a Scorsese.
It is. I always get confused with the Mel Gibson one, honestly.
No,
yeah, this one's the Scorsese one.
Okay, so apparently in the movie, and this is what I heard. Please don't fact check me on this. It's not from me. This is word on the street.
Okay, so this is all speculation. This is all allegedly.
Yes, yeah, and this is things I've heard from multiple people. But basically, I've heard in the movie that Jesus gets with Mary Magdalene.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, like, she gets pregnant.
Interesting.
I believe it's either that one or there's also another movie about Jesus. I don't know which one it was, but to stay safe, I just steered clear from it.
Do you enjoy any movies about Jesus? I haven't found one that's been like, whoa, you seen that one? Like, they're always just kind of like, meh.
Okay,
no
well,
offense.
I actually have some comments about that. So let me look this up. Publish. What is sacrilegious depiction of Christ? Yeah, it is the Last Temptation of Christ is what I'm talking about. Yeah, so I can't. Yeah, it's not for me. That version is not going to be for me. Passion of Christ is very, very good, very accurate.
That's Mel Gibson's.
Yes,
gotcha.
Very, very good. The problem with a lot of Christian media, it's bad. It is very
I almost
tacky.
choked. I almost choked on my tea. Can
No,
you
but
elaborate a little bit more?
it's very bad, meaning like it's very tacky. It's very cheesy. They demonize the people we're trying to reach, meaning anybody that's not a Christian is not good. They depict them as alcoholics and miserable people. And I would love to see more Christian media that's well done. I'm always the biggest pusher for that whenever somebody asks me about good Christian movies. I literally go, Passion of Christ, because that's, or the Nativity Story, that's it. So if anybody's out there, they want to make some good Christian movies, please.
Do
I'm
it
tired
because
of watching God's Not Dead #4.
I'm sorry, but you're forgetting about the best religious movie out there.
What is that?
Dogma.
Dogma. Oh, Dogma.
Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, come on. Are we gonna like beg to differ on Alanis Morissette portraying God? I think that's pretty cool, if you ask me. But
That movie's like, I'll let it slide though because it's a good
it
movie.
doesn't take itself too seriously. There's nothing
Not,
worse
it's
than
not
a
trying to
movie
reach
that takes
people.
itself so seriously and it's just so cheesy.
It's
Those are like the
really like, and
worst.
it's also like Loki is in the movie. It's not like a religion. You know what I mean? Like,
It's a medley of things.
it's fun. It's a fun movie. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's stupid. It has some themes, but in general, yeah. I speaking as a Christian person, Christian media sucks, and I really hope somebody does something about it because I really like to show people Christian films and not have them cringe. And
Yeah,
I
or
would like
like it's even like the kids versions where the cartoons just look horrific and they just look like from some David Lynchian nightmare.
hey, you know what? VeggieTale slaps. We're not going to do that, but
Wait a minute. Is VeggieTales religious?
VeggieTales is like a Christian, yeah.
What?
They retell Bible stories as vegetables.
That's great. Wait a minute. Another partly biblical because it's based on the 10 commandments. Decalogue. That is ace level right there.
Decalogue is fantastic. Good point too. That's based off the Ten Commandments, but it uses like modern situations. So that's actually a really good example.
That one is
Make
like
stuff like
boom,
that.
like the best of the best, and also it involves real world situations where it doesn't shame anyone, and doesn't. It's just even when the kid, me's about to sob. Even when the kid falls through the ice, you don't rip apart the dad for doing that. Crap, do you remember that episode?
But that is like a great example because it literally just talks about the Ten Commandments in modern situations and why the Ten Commandments are the Ten Commandments. You
Like,
can't get any better than that,
let's be honest. Krzysztof Kieslowski was just a genius. Let's be dead serious with ourselves. But Savanna, I have a question because since we're talking about the whole Christian media and stuff like that, there has to be something that has to be asked. And that question is, how do you feel about William Dafoe not only playing Christ, but also starring in the movie Antichrist? What does that make you feel?
I don't acknowledge it.
It doesn't exist.
My eyes. I don't acknowledge that movie. Do I know what it's about? No. Could it not have anything to do with Antichrist? Could it just be called Antichrist? Of course. Not gonna see it.
Man, his filmography really changed the
It
minute he
goes
started
from
hanging out with
Rat
Lars.
to Jesus. His filmography. Rat to Jesus.
That's so crazy. Like, it really went, like, his whole career kind of... I mean, he's always done, like, a little bit of more, like, crazy stuff. But dang, once he did, like, Antichrist, then he went into Nymphomaniac.
I mean, this man also did The Lighthouse, which was something else.
Oh, easily one of his best performances. Oh, there's one movie that he's in that everyone... I think it's, like, an older movie from the 70s that I think a lot of people talk about him in it. It's something like Hunter, or I might be getting confused with another one.
Yes, Deer Hunter.
He's in it?
Yeah. He's with
You see?
him, De Niro, and no, I'm not. I'm thinking about. You know who I'm thinking about? Just
Who are you
kidding.
thinking of?
The other blonde man. The other
That
blonde one.
that doesn't really narrow it for me.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about.
Duval?
Cowbell. Yes, Cowbell.
Duval? Okay.
Cowbell.
What?
No, not Duval. No.
Why are you saying cowbell? What do
He
you
was in the
mean?
SNL. That's the only thing that's coming to mind right now. Cowbell. Cow.
Oh, Walken. Christopher
Yes.
Walken.
They look alike when they were younger.
Gotcha.
The same
Okay, that's
color.
why.
No, that wasn't him. Yeah, Christopher Walken was in Deer Hunter. I don't know what movie they're referring to.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, I'm trying to think.
And
Oh, so
wait, Florida
what?
Project, where he was.
Oh,
That is where I think we got the name Daddy Defoe.
well, yeah, because we reviewed that last year. So, yeah, that makes sense. That's when the whole Daddy Defoe thing started. I mean, like, look, I get it. I can see it. He's kind of like one of those, because you know me, I have two types. It's either
He was in
skinny and
Platoon.
it's either skinny and scary or chunky and hairy. Those are the only two types that I dive into. And he falls into the skinny and scary category. So I could see that. He's kind of like a, what's his name? The new guy who plays it.
Oh,
Skarsgård.
Skarsgård.
They're kind of like similar. You know what I mean?
He was very cute in Platoon.
Oh, I could see that. I could see that. He's
Yeah,
definitely a good-looking guy, but
for
he
this
definitely
one.
has like villainesque features even before playing the Green Goblin. You know,
Yeah, no, he has the. You know what it is? His face is very sunk in, and he's got like a pointy nose.
he
Very
looks like the
sharp
human
features.
embodiment of a very pretty raven.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always saw him more like reptilian like, but honestly, a raven
Oh,
very on point.
that makes sense.
You,
That makes sense. And I say that ha 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 because we kind of goof that your husband looks like a lizard.
yeah, Stephanie says I like
Full
men that can
circle.
play lizards in real life.
Yeah, because you go for the big eyes. You go for the big, like,
Yeah.
far apart eyes, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful category in its of itself. But that's your motif, if you will.
Yes.
Mhm. So I got two new criterions. Well, one of them just came in today. The other's coming in tomorrow, but I ordered them. And because fun fact for anyone who's listening and likes collecting criterions, yeah, I know you guys are waiting for them sales at Barnes and Noble and then random little morsels when Criterion gives us like a 50% off. Are you good? Are you ripping paper? What's
No,
going
no,
on?
my charger fell. It's okay.
Oh, okay. But or when they give us the little morsels of like 50% off and things like that.
Flash
I'm
sale.
telling you right now, go on Amazon. And if you
Yeah.
refine and if you click like deals of the day, you get the best stuff. And they're sealed too and they're legit.
Yeah.
I ordered an Elia Kazan movie. Because a lot of people every time I in a TikTok I made, I talked about On the Waterfront. And everyone just was like, "Oh yeah, during the McCarthy era." I'm like, "What? Everyone's a historian nowadays." But it kept putting that thought in my mind, so I ended up getting another Elia Kazan movie called A Face in the Crowd. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I have. I've heard it's fantastic.
That's the one with Andy Griffith, where he plays like a really interesting type character. I haven't seen it yet. I just got it in. So I got that one. $13.
Wow.
$13, little man. Put that shit in my hand.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah. So I got that. And then I got one. We recently saw this director's work a few episodes ago, probably like 10 episodes ago. And I heard a lot about this and I read it and it totally seemed like a movie I would love. I picked up Funny Games by Michael, I think it's pronounced Haneke or Haneke.
Funny. Is that they remade that? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah, but I got the original one. And it's essentially about like a family who is forced to play these games by like captors and stuff like that. It's really supposed to be really like
It's
mental
very.
games and stuff.
I've seen the first one. It's
Oh, so you've seen the one? I think
it's Australian, right? They're
yes.
Australian.
Yeah, it's by the same guy who made 71 Fragments of a Chronology of Chance.
That makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense now thinking
Wait, I
about it.
think it's Austrian.
Yeah, yeah, one of them.
You said Australian.
Yeah,
I'm
one
pretty
of the A's.
sure. It's Austrian, I
Are you
think.
sure? I could be very wrong. So
I'm pretty sure.
yeah, no, okay, that's fine.
I'm looking, let's see where it was
It,
made. I
it's
think it
it's
yeah,
one of the
it's
A's.
Austrian because it's in
Yes,
German.
one of the A's. Okay.
Yeah, so that one is about two violent young men take a mother, father, and son hostage in their vacation cabin, force them to play sadistic games with one another for their own amusement. You know me, I like
Yeah, I'm
dark
like, wait a
movies.
minute. I'm an idiot. I said Australian. This movie's in German.
It
Australian. No, no, yeah.
Austrian. You were close. You were close. You were a little bit of some consonants off.
It's very scary. Like, I think for me, the scariest things are things that can happen,
Mhm.
and this is a very that's a thing that could happen. It's very psychological. Have you heard of the sacred killing of a deer?
Oh, isn't that a Yorgos Lanthimos film?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have not watched it though, but I'm familiar with Yorgos's filmography.
It reminded me of that, and obviously that came out after Funny Games. It reminded me of that because it's the same sort of psychological torture route. Um,
Oh, you do know that we have a Dogtooth coming up soon, right?
we're watching that together because I
That's
heard
totally
it's
fine. I'm totally cool
scary,
with that.
scary.
But
Yeah, I
yeah, so
heard it's
that's
crazy.
dang. I'm really excited to see it. But I say let's jump into the two movies that we're going to talk about now because I got a lot to say.
Okay.
And the first one I want to start off with is the 49th Parallel. So, in case you didn't know, the 49th Parallel came out in 1941 during World War II. And it's about a World War II U boat crew is stranded in northern Canada. To avoid internment, they must make their way to the border and get into the still neutral US. For those of you who may not know historical context, Canada joined, essentially became, they joined World War II essentially in 39. The US did not join until Pearl Harbor, so 41. So
Yep.
the director is Michael Powell. Some people may be familiar with his work on The Red Shoes, and it stars Leslie Howard, Raymond Massey, Laurence Olivier, Anton Walbrook, and Eric Portman, just to name a few. Now, Savannah, I gotta tell you right now, and this is the part where we don't have spoilers, but I for sure was going into this thinking, not going into this purposely, but something told me that I wasn't going to like this movie because I had really, really high hopes for the 39 Steps, which is
Yeah,
arguably a little bit similar. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this movie. I absolutely love this movie.
I agree. I had that
I
same thought, but when I looked up the director and I saw he did Peeping Tom, I
oh, I haven't
really,
seen that
really
one.
like that movie. And then the Red Shoes, of course. I haven't seen the Red Shoes, but that's
That's
always
kind of
another.
iconic. I've seen a bunch of clips and stuff. I haven't seen the full thing either, but it was. But also, like, arguably, like 39 Steps is done by Alfred Hitchcock. So when you think, oh,
Yeah,
Hitchcock, you think you're going to go in. But that one was kind of a disappointment for us. Like, we both kind of agreed on that one. So this one, I kind of held my breath because sometimes a lot of the movies that come out during this time period all feel the same. This one blows it out of the water. And I'm so surprised that no one is talking about this. Like, in terms of movies from this era, I'm surprised no one talks about it.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I also personally, I don't know how you feel about this, but with earlier movies, and you kind of said it yourself, they all kind of sometimes blend together.
Yeah.
Movies from the 30s, the 40s, I feel like at that point they were just kind of banging them out. Um, and they all kind of blend together in my mind. There's only a few that really stand out because a lot of them have the same actors, same
Hmm.
speaking, same plot line. So I was just kind of like, all right,
Well, there's no getting rid of them transatlantic. Like, that really didn't start dissipating until like 50s and 60s.
yeah, yeah. So I really enjoyed this. I really, really enjoyed the commentary.
I think that this movie on its own, even if you don't know the whole historical context of this movie, is fantastic. So I'm going to say
Yeah,
watch it. It's a great movie. It's definitely worth the watch. A little bit of a slow burn, but watch it. But I want to talk more about this movie and things that I learned about this movie. So essentially, the writer and director for this movie, um, at the time, in World War II, Goebbels, who was like the head of propaganda in Nazi Germany at the time, was pumping out propaganda left and right in Europe. And
Yeah.
essentially, Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, the writer and director, they essentially said, if he can do it, we can do it too. And they made this movie in an effort to convince US to join the war.
Yeah.
Because this is not a Canadian movie. This is an English movie filmed in Canada.
Yeah.
So I really, really enjoyed this. First of all, the minute Laurence Olivier walked the scene, I did not recognize him.
He wasn't his, usual
Well, because
kind of
I,
self.
first of all, the French Canadian accent threw me off.
Yeah.
He's an Englishman. So I was like, whoa, okay. But I didn't recognize it was him until I heard the character name. And I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that Laurence Olivier? Because I always imagine Laurence Olivier like a very slender, pencil mustache, like
Dapper.
more like a
Yeah.
Clark Gable type. I was not I was not essentially interpreting a chunky Henry Cavill. I was not expecting that. Did I thoroughly enjoy it? Absolutely. But it really like took me aback. I had no like I would have never known it was him unless you had like told me to look it up essentially.
Yeah, throws you for a loop.
And also, what also threw me for a loop because this is still like the time where he was pretty popular and whatnot. I don't think he had reached his peak or anything like that,
Yeah, but
but
he was well known.
he was a household name for sure. And I think it's so crazy how, and this is where the spoiler comes in, he literally dies within 25 minutes of the movie.
I don't think that was a bold move, killing off like a star like that. Because that's what really brings people in when you hear names like that. And he's dead, not even halfway through the film.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it really just because here's the thing: if you think about it this way, he did the movie Rebecca a year beforehand, and
Yeah.
that was a big movie. So it really like I maybe not a lot of people knew he was in it because he's kind of unrecognizable. At least to me, he was unrecognizable.
Yeah, I didn't at first glance I didn't either.
Hmm.
I looked it up and I was following along with like IMDb, but yeah, they did a good job, but maybe that was the point though, you know?
Yeah, and you know what it reminds you know exactly what type I loved his character for even though how short it was because it reminded me exactly from one of my favorite TV shows.
Yes.
He reminded me of Pierre from Danger 5 and I was all for it.
Yes. I agree. When you brought
I was totally for it. And I was very surprised from once again a clearly labeled World War II movie for it to have light-hearted moments.
yeah.
In also contrast to over like 11 people dying in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was a lot. In terms of story, I would have never thought of because like when we reference back the history and when we reference back World War II and things like that, we always just kind of, at least from an American lens, we always just kind of remember that like, oh yeah, we never liked them from the get go, and we forget that at one point we were kind of neutral with them. It wasn't until that they
Yeah.
bombed Pearl Harbor that we really started getting into war. So for me, this kind of whole thing is the idea of it was crazy how at the time Canada was, already against Nazi Germany before even we were. And so that really like surprised me. And then the idea of like, first of all, I just don't understand the logistics of why a U-boat would be near Canada. That part I didn't understand fully because I'm like, that's a far drive in a little U-boat.
I
That's a
agree.
far distance.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
agree.
I was a little bit surprised with that, but everything else made sense. And even like I wasn't also expecting so much balance from the movie. Like things are
Yeah.
crazy, but it's still balanced, you know?
I mean, for a propaganda film, it's very subtle and smart. They don't
Yes.
kind of throw it in your face like most. If you look at a lot of propaganda films or pro nation, whatever you call it, they throw it in your face what you're supposed to believe and what like especially like the Nazi ones, like you know what I mean.
Mhm.
So to counter that, they put out a really intelligent film and said what they needed to say with this story without shoving it down anybody's throat, which is a really smart way to go about it because the Americans are stubborn. If they would have been like,
Yeah.
"You suck," yeah, that probably wouldn't have worked.
And
But
maybe that's why they killed Laurence Olivier so soon, because then maybe people in the audience would be like, the Nazis killed Laurence Olivier, we must go to war. They must have been freaking out, just goofing. But it really is, I really am impressed with this film. Not only the characters that kind of interact with this Nazi group, but the Nazi characters themselves. You, of course, have the one character played by Eric Portman, the lieutenant of the group. And
yeah.
essentially he's the one who's like, absolutely, the Deutschland and everything Deutschland and everything like that, And but then you have other like members, like you have like a crybaby of the group. You have, the the guy who just wants to bake bread. The guy who just wants to bake bread with his new Canadian family. I can't. I literally almost cried during that. That was so beautiful. And then they took it away from him, Savannah.
Yeah.
That was I couldn't. That was such a beautiful scene.
I mean, we can both agree this is probably now. I myself have not seen many propaganda films, but I assume this is probably one of the best.
And honestly, like I can say, because I feel like a lot of certain war movies of the 40s are really elevated. 39 Steps, Casablanca, things
Yeah.
like that. I'm upset that this is not number one, because this really sets the tone. This really sets the tone and shows like from a whole nother perspective and things like that. Maybe that's why it didn't bode well in the US in terms of ratings and whatnot. But this movie is just the writing, the characters, even if characters are only there for a little bit. One thing I loved and I was so happy is that the fact that they used real Inuit people instead of doing yellowface, because that was a popular thing back then. So I'm
I
really happy
noticed
that they
that.
didn't do that.
I noticed that. Definitely.
Like I was like genuinely, because once they have you have Laurence Olivier's character interacting with an Inuit character, and I was like, are they like actually using like actual Inuits? And I looked it up and
Yeah,
they
I got
did, and I was
nervous
so
at first.
happy.
I got nervous at first. I had to pause and I'm like, I hope that's a
I was
real.
like, don't tell me that's a white guy with duct tape on his eyes or something like that, something stupid. And I
Yeah.
was so happy that they were actually, accurate. They didn't do something that would have, because I would have hated if this movie had, a racist remark like that. And it would have really just left a stain on this movie. And then I could see why that this movie might have been like left behind. But it really is, it doesn't have that. And it's a great, great movie. Did you have any particular favorite characters, scenes, or sequences with this movie?
I think it would be. I like the role of the lieutenant
Mm-hmm.
because he was what Germany was, this hateful, macho, just awful character.
Oh, he
But
for sure was like a from Schindler's List. Essentially, Ralph Fiennes' character in Schindler's List was essentially who he was.
but believe it or not, the other Nazis were now. Don't take this the wrong way. Nazis are not good, but the characters themselves were likable,
Yeah,
which I enjoyed to see some. And I guess that would be symbolism for, whatever Germany itself. Like, not that Nazis are good, but I'm saying, like, people of Germany, whatever. But I really did like the lieutenant character themselves because it was that stable foundation of what was going on in Germany. Like,
yeah, and I do think
others
it
that
was
were,
very important to include that, because in reality, people who were in the war sometimes just have no choice but to be in the
that's what I
war.
was trying to say. I think he was the most important because at the end of the day, he was the foundation. That was Germany's roots at the time, just evil and hatred. And
Yeah,
even
he
with
was
the
like
other
the
guys
embodiment. He was like the Hitler of the group, and then everyone else was just kind of like
going
the
along
people
with
who
it.
appeased Hitler so that they wouldn't get killed.
Yeah, everybody else was just going, even though they seemed like likable characters and they were enjoyable to watch, they were going along with it. So that
Yeah.
really represented what was going on in Germany at the time. So I like that group in general. Obviously, Laurence Olivier was very good. Honestly, I thought everybody was pretty solid in this film.
Yeah, like everyone, including the guy who plays the lieutenant, like, or even like because there's that one scene where the lieutenant thinks that the family that they're with are like full pure-blooded German nationalists, and following the whole Hitlerism type of thing. And so he does this grand speech and is like, we must do this for the fatherland and we go to Europe and blah 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 blah. And then one dude's like, you guys look so stupid right now, and then just rips them into a new one. That guy did a great job as well.
Yeah.
And then he offered the guy who he was like, hey, after the war, if you want to come back and bake bread with me, you can. That was so great. And then the ending too was like so smart but funny, but like very triumphant,
Like I said, I think it's a very intelligent film, very well thought of, not too in your face. And I think it gave a lot of, another thing I appreciate about the film, it was very easy to understand what they were saying. It wasn't very coded. It was subtle, but we all got the message loud and clear. We
Yeah,
all
it
knew.
was a little hard to interpret in the beginning, especially when
Oh
you just
yeah,
kind of see like the boats in the water and you're like, what's going on? Where am I? And things like that. And then also it's a little slightly confusing because none of the German dudes speak with a German accent and you're like, what's going on? Everyone's
yeah.
speaking English.
I just like that we all could understand that the Germans were like what they believe in was going to be a problem for us. That's what the film was saying. Like what they believed in threatened the rest of the world. America wasn't a part of it. And they
Mm-hmm.
were saying like this is going to come to your shores. This is going to threaten you whether you get involved or not.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. I think the film is very smart. It's slow, I'll admit, especially in the beginning, some parts throughout the middle, but I think for a war film, that's not like if you want to watch a movie about a war that's not in the war, this is where it's at.
Yeah, or if you want to watch something that's more serious but a little bit more light-hearted, this is definitely because there's not a lot of war movies that, aside from like Jojo Rabbit, which this does have a little bit of a Jojo Rabbit vibe, but there's not many war movies that you can just say, oh yeah, you want to play this movie? It's a war movie. It's fun. No one's saying that
Okay.
with Come and See. No
No,
one's
not
saying
even
that with the
fun.
next movie that we're going to be talking about. Not a lot of people say like, hey, great movie. It's real fun. Saving Private Ryan. Let's play it. That's not really how things go when you want to
No.
play a war movie like that. But this is definitely something that's like more war based. Like if you have like a friend who's like a history buff and stuff like that, this would
Yeah,
totally be a cool movie to show them.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And also, I was very impressed with the directing and editing done, especially when they are in the plane and they're trying to take flight and it kind of nosedives into the water. Very impressed with how that was done and filmed because normally with things like that they tend to look a little bit cheesy. But I thought that they did a really good job with that scene.
Agreed. Yeah, I thought overall I thought that was good too. I thought it was filmed in a very like, for lack of better words, a fun way as well.
Oh, let's not forget the one guy, the author, right? Who Philip Armstrong Scott, who starts beating up one of the Nazis. Or no, yeah, he starts beating up one of the Nazis and he's like, this is for Matisse. This is for Van Gogh. Because at the time, Nazi Germany was burning a lot of artwork, a lot of famous
Yeah.
artwork and stuff like that. And like churches and things like that got ruined. So I really thought that was really great. Like, this is for Picasso. This is for this. And then the ending. I love the fact that you had was the guy like an American soldier? I felt like I thought he was an American soldier with the Nazi soldier, right?
I believe so.
Or some type of American worker just trying to go
It
back
was an
into US.
American. It was an American, yeah.
I thought it was so great how they put him in the little trolley essentially, or the train cabin,
Yeah.
and they lock him up and they're like, well, because they're like, don't let this guy, he's a Nazi, and he's like, well, you guys are considered freight and anything that's not accounted for needs to go back, so you guys are going back to Canada. And it ends with literally the guy going like very 50 style, like, I'm gonna beat my uniform off of you, and just he
Yeah.
just starts slamming the knuckles and things like that. I thought it was so great. I even like that actor at the end as well.
Yeah, like I said, every performance on here is pretty much solid. Even
Hmm.
the small ones.
It was really, really good. So, overall, this movie is available as a Criterion disc. Would you want to own said Criterion disc?
I would. Actually, yeah, I think I could see myself showing this to somebody. I could see myself maybe coming back to this. I don't know how often, but I would definitely want to see it again. So I'd own it, especially if it was Criterion. What about you?
Oh, same. I was actually looking up how much it is because they right now only have it available, from what I saw, as a DVD. I really hope that they really redo this one essentially as a Blu-ray. I think that
Sure,
would be fantastic.
sure.
Um, but I really really enjoy the film. So what's your score for it?
8.8.
Nice.
It's a
Uh,
little slow,
mhm.
things like that, but otherwise a really solid message, great acting.
I think I'm gonna give it a 9.4. I really, really
Oh.
enjoyed this movie and I really liked it. And this is something that I've already told my boyfriend, like, oh, I'm showing you this movie. This movie's great. So I really liked it. It's definitely unique. It's kind of like one of a kind on its own. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really great.
Yeah.
Also, another thing I looked up because I'm wondering still why wasn't this movie hyped up? Citizen Kane came out the same year, so I can see
Yeah,
why it kind of got
there it is.
thrown in the bush a little bit while Citizen Kane stood on a pedestal essentially.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, Suspicion with Cary Grant and Joan Fontaine, and then Citizen Kane came out the same year. So I'm like, I see
Heavy competition. Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Um, all right, so Savannah, do you want to lead us into the next movie?
Yeah, let me okay, so sorry. Sorry, it's
You're
loading.
good.
No. All right. So it's not loading on my phone, so
You want me to introduce it? I got it right here, girl.
go ahead. Go ahead. Don't
Okay.
wait for me.
So
Sorry,
the next
guys.
movie, you're good, you're good. So the next movie we're going to be talking about is a Netflix original movie titled Beast of No Nation, and it recently was just announced that it's going to be featured as a Blu-ray Criterion disc.
Woo!
And it came out in 2015, and it's a drama based on the experiences of Agu, a child soldier fighting in the civil war of an unnamed African country. And it is written and directed by Kari Joji Fukunaga, and it's based on the book with the same novel, Beast of No Nation. And the two most prominent stars are Abraham Atta as Agu and why is his name not showing up? Idris Elba as
He's
I'm
all
trying
the
to
way
see
at
what
the
his
end.
character's name is.
He's all the way at the
Oh
end.
man, as Commandant. As Commandant. Idris Elba. So those are the two most prominent actors. A few episodes ago, we actually talked about this movie and I was telling you about it. And
Yep.
funny enough, literally like 3 days later, Criterion announced this as a Criterion. So Savannah, after seeing this movie, what are your thoughts without spoiling it?
It was a rough one. Um, but it was one of the best movies I've
Mm-hmm.
seen this year, for sure. Um, the movie is very graphic, but in a psychological way. You don't
Mm-hmm.
see, and obviously, like violence wise, but I think mostly it affects you psychologically because it's kind of the same realm as come and see. Like you're seeing the innocence being taken away from a child.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important for movies like this and like Come See to be put in Criterion because essentially when it's put in the Criterion, it gets a lot of hype, it gets shared around a lot. And I truly feel like this movie no one talks about. And I'm so happy people are now starting to talk about it. And I hope more people will talk about it because this is, first of all, Netflix's first film that they ever made. What a banger
Which
to
is
put out.
weird. I've never seen it on Netflix. Never seen it on, I mean, I haven't like dug deep for it, but like in my years of scrolling through Netflix and the movies, it has never come up once. And I've never seen anything about it online.
Yeah, it's just I think because for them it was a little bit weird because in terms of money they didn't make a lot of money from it because this came out in 2015 when Netflix was not as popular as it is today or even last year for example. So but it was up for several Golden Globes. Even the kid who plays Abraham Atta, who plays Agu, was nominated for
Yeah.
Best Actor,
Yeah.
and
Um,
Idris Elba too was nominated for Best Supporting.
I they deserve it 1,000%.
Absolutely. I think this is one of those movies where it's important that you see it once. Obviously, Come and See is similar to it because you're using the same premise of a child soldier. But I do think it's important to understand that there's there's different phases of the world, and Flora from Come and See only represents one of the many world tragedies that have happened. So I think watching this movie is so important to watch because it tells a side of the story that not a lot of people talk about. A lot of people reminisce about World War II because it's very, there's a lot of media about World War II. It was something that the Americans and Europeans got involved in. There's not a lot of movies about like African conflicts.
Well, let's be honest, we don't know, like, in everyday media, in the news, we don't know a lot about what's going on in that country. We're not shown it. Um, and that's the sad reality. We don't learn a lot about it in schools. I don't know about you. I didn't learn anything about Africa.
I think the biggest thing that I had learned about was actually I had a teacher that made me I had a teacher that made me remember all countries of Africa and would make us do projects and stuff. So I'm a little bit familiar, like of course with the Rwandan genocide and
Well,
things
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, and then even like things that were prominent, like whatever happened with Coney 2012. Essentially, I've known of things with that, and there have been several there's many different African warlords all across the African nations, anywhere essentially between Ethiopia and South Africa. You're going to have a bunch of those in there. There's several different conflicts going on in there.
I mean,
um,
Ethiopia is in civil war right now,
well,
and
yeah,
nobody's
Ethiopia,
talking about it.
Somalia, and then also a lot of people don't realize that a lot of ISIS and Taliban have fled to Middle Africa and started recruiting, child soldiers and things like that there.
Yeah. Um, I will say Netflix did a great job about not hiding what goes on in these, in these situations, especially to what happens to the families and the children's and everything. And they don't have like, it was graphic, and yes, a lot of it was brutal, but it wasn't excessive. I don't think they abused it. And
No, it wasn't like they did it for the views, It wasn't like they
exactly.
did it for people to be like, "Oh my god, look, did you see this scene?" I feel like they did it in good taste, even though it's still very hard to watch. They did it in good taste.
And everything is through a little kid's eyes. Like, you're seeing the war through a child's eyes. And like I said, if I had to compare this to a movie, it'd probably be Come and See. Or have you seen City of God?
I've heard a lot about it, but I actually haven't seen it. But I can understand the comparison between that because it involves children, correct?
Yeah, it's about a boy who grows up in the favelas in Brazil. And there
Mhm.
were certain scenes that reminded me of City of God. But yeah, I think Netflix does situations like this justice. It didn't hide anything, it didn't abuse um, or glorify violence. And I mean, I personally liked, not no spoiler alert. It did have somewhat of a happy ending.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in comparison to the movie Come and See,
In
it
comparison
definitely
to
ends on
most
a lighter note.
in comparison to most uh,
Yeah.
films, we have hope. Now, don't get me wrong, the character is messed up at the end, of
Yeah,
course.
and it's still pretty heartbreaking, but in
Yeah, you
comparison
go
to
through
how
so
it could
much.
have ended.
You have hope for this character.
Mhm.
Um, and with that quote unquote happy ending, it also doesn't take away the experiences of it. I think a lot of people are scared to give characters in very real situations hope or happier endings because they're afraid it's going to undo everything we just saw. But with this movie, I think it's the opposite.
And I
We,
think it's so important for a movie like this, especially when keep in mind a lot of the extras that are used in this movie are former child soldiers, soldiers. And so I think it's important not only for the viewer, but I think it's important for people involved in the movie to know that as they were making this, that because imagine like being someone who was once a soldier and now seeing, a director making a movie essentially almost like as a kid, like making a movie about a kid version of you, and you've been a child soldier. Would you want to be on set and see that kid die? Absolutely not. Or would you
Yeah,
want to be be on set and see this somewhat depiction of you be given no hope and just have a horrible ending to the story? I don't think that would bode well for the people around it. And for who knows, you don't know how many. It's hard to gauge in how many people were involved in the making of this movie,
right.
simply because it was just so hard to make. So I feel like that's so important too for the people who are involved in it to give it that hopeful ending as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. Um, yeah, this movie is emotional. It's
There's
emotional.
not a lot to say about it because it's one of those things where,
You
like,
have to
you
watch
expect
it.
it, and keep in mind, even though it's not a documentary, it definitely has a documentary feel, and which is great, first of all, how they did that, and I absolutely love the way that they filmed this because they kinda made it all look like vintage film, and that really adds to a sense of realism
Mhm.
to the movie. It feels like you are actually watching someone's story just on, 35 millimeter and things like that. So, that's important, and same with, like, Come and See. Like, there's not a lot of things that you can say about Come and See, except it's a it's a war movie about a child soldier, and it's a must-see. This is in that same realm, but definitely a different form of execution, and I think both films are equally as important.
I mean, I don't know about you, but this is one of the best performances from a kid.
Oh my god,
Bradley Cyrus,
it
no, he was wow, he
I
was
think it's also one of the
fantastic.
best in terms of depictions of war, one of the best in terms of realistic.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Like, and I do think there are elements to it because even though Come and See is very, very unnerving, there are elements to this movie that are a little bit more intense, especially the fact that now you're including the fact that these kids were placed on drugs when they were child soldiers. Like, you remember the scene where Agu gets cut in the head?
Yeah.
Essentially, they would place like mushrooms and other drugs and stuff like that. And that's what enabled these kids to kill so relentlessly because they just kept them all drugged up.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, the other thing they touch on is abuse, like,
Yeah.
sexual abuse that these kids were going through. I don't think I've seen that in a movie yet about, like,
Yeah.
child soldiers or things like that, like, they touched on it a little bit, so that was interesting to see, and I think that's also an important narrative to bring out there that this is also what's happening to these kids.
Yeah, and even the way that he's torn away from his family, like, his father and brother were like shot in a firing squad. And there's that one scene is very so jarring how it's I think it's within the first 20 minutes when he turns around and sees like his brother face down in the ground, but his face is completely like destroyed from
Yeah.
bullets. And then also even like how he's separated from his youngest brother and the mother, and how he's essentially like, and it sucks too because he's young enough to still be treated like a baby, but in reality, there is a younger brother. And so he's kind of like his older brother knows like I can't go, Agu can't go, and but my little brother and mom has to go.
Yeah.
But Agu is still trying to process the fact that he's a kid, but not a kid enough, essentially.
Yeah.
And the oh my god, the speech in the end where he's looking at this maybe a UN helper, some
Yeah, it
type
was
of
yeah.
helper at this place, where he looks at this grown woman and says, "She is treating me like a baby, but I am an old man." It's like, oh my god,
Doesn't that
like
just
just
rip your heart out?
yeah, and, like, he sells the performance. Like, I'm really happy that they put Idris Elba in this movie because I felt like if it did get any views, it brought in because people know Idris Elba. I
Well,
don't
what a
think the director was known well at the time either, so
what a choice though for that because I don't know about you, but I'm used to seeing Idris Elba in like more likable roles, and he
yeah. Well, he felt that the film was very important, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
what he did was essentially Idris Elba doesn't kind of look like Idris Elba because normally Idris Elba is very ripped, shredded, clean cut, very prim and proper.
Yeah.
He stopped working out. He gained a ton of weight for this movie. He really let himself go because he wanted to like really throw away the Hollywood look and really just dive into making this movie. And also, I gotta say, this director, Trooper, director caught malaria while filming the movie within
Oh my
1 month.
gosh.
He caught malaria.
Dedication. I wanted to say, I feel like Idris Elba also played it very rough, like very interesting. He was manipulative, but like manipulative in a way where like you understood why the kids like had this intense loyalty to him.
Yeah, it's like because he was commanding, but he also
Not
didn't.
because he like
He was like very stark with them, but I don't really think he ever threatened to like kill them.
that's what I'm
He
saying.
threatened to release them and let them be killed by other people, but he never threatened to kill them. And I think that is, in a sense, a lot of, people who recruit, not a lot of, but a lot of commandants like him in real life, that's what they do with children, and that's how they lure them. They lure them with protection.
Yeah, I mean, it was just amazing to see this very evil character be manipulative, but in a way where he's like also taking on them like a father figure. He just played it in so many different levels. I was very impressed.
Yeah, and I think also one of the things that I discovered about this movie that really adds to the element of why. So also, not only do you have the commandant like that, but you put these kids on drugs. They think that that the world around them is not real anymore, especially
Yeah.
when you're giving them hallucinogenics. But one of the things that I thought was absolutely crazy while reading trivia about the movie is when you see like African child soldiers and when you look at their clothing, they have these little colorful patches sewn
Mhm.
on them. And I was thinking, I'm like, those can't be ranks. Like, I'm not thinking that they're ranking, the children going like, he's leveled up, give him a patch. I'm not thinking it's going to be that. So I got curious and I looked it up. And apparently, it's common for children soldiers to have patches sewn on them because they are told it's blessed by a doctor with juju magic, a witch doctor, and that it makes them bulletproof.
Oh
So it
my God.
really plays so, like, you can understand this movie really does a good portrayal, not only into current and previous conflicts in Africa, but it also gives you this crazy insight as to how you exactly lure a child into war.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and there are just some the machete scene, I don't even know how they did that. That was so crazy. That was probably one of the most hardest to watch scenes I've ever sat through.
I mean, there are so many scenes that are just heart wrenching, and it's even more heart wrenching when you're like, these are children, and you don't
Yeah.
even recognize at one point that they're children because what's going on is so evil.
Yeah, it's so crazy because this movie takes place in a unnamed African country because it's supposed to represent multiple different types of
Of
African
course,
wars,
yeah.
battles, things like that going on, and so a lot of inspiration came from things like the Rwandan genocide, from current conflicts happening in Ethiopia, Libya, things like that too. So this is overall just an incredibly important movie, and I'm so surprised that it's really, even in the Criterion, that it hasn't been talked. This movie's over 5 years old, and no one knows about it.
It is a rough film. I think there's a lot of scenes for I think about the scene with the baby, and
Yeah.
that for me, like, I don't think I'd watch this movie again because I can't relive some of the scenes again. But I agree, like, though it's a rough movie to watch and it's definitely not a fun one, it's an important one. Just like Come and See, and it's even probably more relevant than Come and See right now because it's happening.
Yeah, and it uses more, yeah, and it's also more modern tactics. Now you're involving, drugs, and you're playing, and I really, like I said, it just shows like how you're able to, like, it's kind of different because Beast of No Nation shows how a child is manipulated into war, and loving it, whereas Come and See just shows how a child is just grabbed and pulled into the war and they don't want to be. Like it's kind of like two different approaches. But I still think equally are both fantastic. And I keep referencing Come and See because I don't know a lot of movies about child soldiers. That's just me personally. And Come and See seems to be the most prominent one. But I really think in terms of directing and angles and things like that, in terms of more of an aesthetic thing, I think this movie hits it on the head because you played around a little bit, especially when you have the depictions of kids on drugs and you kind of go into like the pink colorings and you get away from, the 70s style vignette and grain and things like that. Um, but I think it's just as good and equally as important as Come and See.
Surprisingly, there aren't a lot of movies about child soldiers. You know Blood Diamond.
Yeah.
That's one of them, but Blood Diamond doesn't have a lot of, you don't see it too much. And if you look up any other movies, like I just looked it up, there's not a lot.
And
There,
I think it's just because it is one of those things where when you kind of slap that label to a movie, you're not going to get a lot of views. People aren't going to be like, oh my god, yeah, they're going to want to see the Meryl Streep movie. They're going to want to see, if this premiered in theaters, they're going to want to see, Mamma Mia 14. They're not going to want to see, this movie or Come and See unless you generate, film nerds like you and me who love watching movies that are important like this. And that's where like a movie like Come and See didn't become popular until really this year when the Criterion re-released it and people really got to see it, at least in American culture and, more modern European culture.
yeah, yeah, it's a rough film to watch, but I do not regret watching it, and I don't think anybody will. It's an important movie that stays with you.
There is another one that's similar that I would love to see. It's by the same woman who directed 45 Shots of Rum, and it's called White Material. So
No, that
I'm.
movie sucked.
You saw it?
I told you, it was better than 45 Shots of Rum, but I I'm sorry, like I did not like it.
Just not a fan of Claire Denis.
It was the same issue we had with 45 Shots of Rum.
I think it seems to be part of her motif, part of her style and stuff like that. So I can see that. I do want to give Beau, I think it's Travail. I'd like to give that one a shot though.
All right, she's got one more chance to make it up to me. She's
Damn, Savanna.
the White Material had so much potential, and it was just
Fell
nothing.
short.
It fell very, very short. It's about a woman that owns a coffee plantation, I think, or some plantation in Africa. And there's a conflict happening where everybody's telling her to leave, but she won't leave. And the whole movie is her being stubborn, and that's it. And then there's like a little bit of something that happens at the end. Nothing happens, and you're just
Aw.
watching a white lady can't make up her mind. So yeah, I will not be. I'm sorry, but no, I
That's
will watch
fair.
whatever movie you're talking about. But she, 0 for 2 right now.
Dang. Dang, that sucks. That sucks. Um, but yeah, they're really Come and See and Beast of No Nation and partly Blood Diamond are the only few things that talk about child soldiers.
Yeah.
With that being said, when this movie is available as a Criterion, will you be buying?
Okay, I need to ask your opinion on this. Actually,
Oh, okay, okay.
I love the movie, and I'm gonna give it a very, very, very high rating. But I don't think I'd watch it again.
That's
Like
fair. I mean,
I
it is
don't
hard
think
to watch.
I don't think I would watch it again unless I was showing somebody or for if we ever did another review on it for another reason. Do you think, even though I absolutely love it, do you think I should buy it? What do you think about that?
It depends because here's the thing. For me, there's two reasons why I buy Criterions. Aside, like, and I don't include just wanting to collect them as a third one. If it's a movie I've already seen, what will make me buy it is one, if I'm going to rewatch it, or two, I'm going to watch the bonus features that it comes with. So for me, even though this is my second or third time seeing Beast of No Nation, I'm probably going to buy it because I do want to see behind the scenes and how this movie was made.
That's fair. Okay, I'm buying it.
That's why, like, because especially because here's the thing, like, Beast of No Nation, I can watch for free on Netflix because I use my parents' subscription, but I would definitely wanna own it because, 1, the cover, 2, the aesthetic and wanting to collect Criterions, and ultimately, 3, I do wanna see how this movie was made. Same thing with, like, Grand Budapest Hotel and all the Wes Andersons. I get it for the pretty aesthetic of it, maybe sometimes the rewatchability of it, even though some of the movies aren't super rewatchable all the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for the bonus features, because you're just not gonna get them. You're not gonna be able to find as much content on YouTube or
Oh, of
Netflix, wherever it
course.
would be, compared to a Criterion DVD.
Yeah. See, I always have a hard time justifying buying Criterions if I don't love them or if I'm going to watch them because it's expensive. Like it's an expensive, luxurious purchase.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why, and once again, definitely check out Amazon. Amazon, like if you literally go on Amazon right now, they have the Fellini set. I want that friggin' Fellini set, man. I think it's like $200 to $300 on Criterion's website. It's like 120 on Amazon right now.
I noticed that also the Bruce Lee set I want is not what how much is that? Because right now on Amazon it's like 70. How much is it
I
in
think it was over $100 on
okay. I want to
Criterion.
get Amazon because I feel like they're just bringing out
Well,
deals.
and I also think of it this way. I think Amazon, honestly, because what I'm pretty sure they do. They buy so much of it that they're able to chuck it at a discount. And I think over the years, people are realizing it and they just go for it. And also, too, like if you notice, whenever Barnes and Noble, I'm not sure if you know, whenever Barnes and Noble has a sale, they actually drop their prices to all movies to the Barnes and Noble prices as well.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, like with DVDs and stuff, dude, they sold Hereditary Blu-ray for $3, the
Oh,
disc
I
on
love
Amazon.
I love that. I love that. So this is the thing though. You know everyone's getting rid of their DVDs.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting rid of their DVDs and Blu-ray because they're over digital. And then there we are, stealing it up. I swear, Stephanie, this is gonna be like vinyl in a few years. It's gonna be a niche thing and everyone's gonna be on it. So we gotta buy all the Blu-rays right now before they hike up the prices.
But then here's the thing. We have to be careful too with that because if less and less are being made or if too much are being made depending on how it goes, then sources can actually become limited. So, for example, vinyl, you would think it's pretty easy to make. Vinyl has increasingly gone over the years because, just popularity, inflation, and whatnot. But also because it's harder and harder to source the material. I definitely think CDs, discs, I mean, even look at cassettes. Like, you can get an Olivia Rodrigo, her new album Sour, on cassette. Like, it's just some people find these niches. I, for one, am double screwed because I collect expensive vinyls and expensive DVDs.
I do.
Like that's where my money goes. But
I think there's a charm in I don't why do you collect DVDs? Because for me it has a lot to do with like having the physical, like having a little because I think you get more for your money in a DVD than you do on digital. You get a physical copy, you get the pretty artwork. Even
well,
with the
and
regular Blu-rays, I do feel like you get more for your money than you do on digital.
yeah, and well, let me tell you this. So I'm actually going to be making a TikTok soon about this, and it was going to be titled like "Why Criterion?" And this is the reason why I will buy Criterions and continue to buy Criterions. As someone who is not going to film school and probably may not have the chance to go to film school due to money, due to whatever reason, I'm still hopeful, of course. I'm still gonna, pay my way through. Eventually, but I'm super particular. I want to go to NYU. I want to do
Of course.
their dual program. I want to do the best of the best. What am I going to do? Go to a film school at UCF? No, thank you.
Stephanie.
Sorry. No offense, but
Stephanie.
it doesn't make sense to me. I would rather lose money and not have to depend on a degree but still lose money on it than have to lose money and depend on that degree to get somewhere.
Mhm.
Hence why I'm in pharmacy school. But with that being said, criterions have been the way I've been learning about movies. If I did not have criterion, so I continue to still buy criterions even though I may not necessarily need it. Let's say a movie's available on a streaming platform, whether it be HBO Max, Criterion Channel, whatever. I still buy it because there are definitely times where I'm just in the mood to sit down, watch a movie, go through all the bonus features, and read the little booklets too. Like, I love film history. And so
Oh,
that to me is why it's worth it.
I love the booklets. I really hope they make more booklets. I'm tired of this. I love Criterion booklets. They are supreme.
They really are. They
Um,
really are.
yeah, I think, like I said, for me, I think you get more for your money with the DVD and you get to hold it, you know. Um, the artwork you get, usually get special features on, even in Blu-rays. Obviously, Criterion is very premium, and I will go with the Criterion each and every time. But I
Mhm.
do feel like even though DVDs can be seen as outdated, they really are like the value in them, I think, are a lot better.
Yeah,
That's what most
absolutely.
like.
And also like I do feel like and I don't think like, oh, if you're going to get a movie, do you have to get the Criterion version of it? It's up
Oh
to
no.
your own preference. It's up
Yeah.
to if you're going to make the use out of it. I do feel like I always when I buy Criterions, I always get my money's worth. Like for example, dude, I buy vinyl records. I just dropped like almost $100 on vinyl records on Record Store Day. You really think I'm like, "Oh my god, I listen to this stuff like 5 times a day." No, I listen to
No.
it once and it stays on my pretty little shelf and I put it in the shelf in my mind and I know it's there and I'll pay $35 for that, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of worse things we could be doing than buying
Drugs.
DVDs. You know,
I
like come
could be smoking Marlboro cigarettes.
on.
Could be paying $100 a
That could be
carton.
our hobby. Yeah, cigarettes.
Yeah, hobbies. I
You
mean,
know, just
like,
like Steph, look at the August release of Criterion. That's what we're doing.
yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of other things. I mean, we could also be like, and this is not to crap on anyone who does this, but there's other things too, other more expensive habits. Like we might be like, oh my God, did you see the Chanel spring line? And they dropped a $14,000 bag. You getting it? I'm getting it. Like, there's other hobbies too that are expensive. But I also think with Criterions, even though right now, sometimes you buy a DVD, you open up the packaging. Yeah, the value goes down. But in a few years, if that randomly, all of a sudden, it goes out of print
Yeah,
that baby shoots up 4 times, and you have a small little investment. It's like with Pokemon cards, man. You know how many Pokemon cards I have?
you
And
do.
I was a collector too. So literally, I never played the game. I just liked the cards. I would literally go pretty and shove it in a little case, not touched. And I have over 2,000 cards and my thing is like ridiculous. For someone who never played, my thing is ridiculous. But you know what? I sleep well at night knowing like, oh yeah, I have original French Charizard. Okay, go to sleep, in case anything happens, I got that,
No, that's great. That's
I
I
got my new 52s of Wonder Woman, all, in little plastic wrapping, the minute something happens, and it skyrockets, I'm gonna be 60 years old turning in $100,000 worth of comic books. You kidding
dude.
me?
Okay, so do you remember? So I got most of my movie collection from my dad. My dad
Mm-hmm.
did it before me, and he had 300 DVDs. And one day he's just like, "Take them. You're gonna use them." Do you
Yeah.
know what this man had that I recently found out?
What?
The Ronin 47 on DVD.
Whoa, that's pretty
I
cool.
was
The
like,
original.
where'd you get this? He's like, I don't remember. Like he gave, yeah, and I couldn't, and now he took it back. So
Oh.
he's because I was like, oh, this could be worth a lot of money. He's like, I will just take that back then. That's for me. But I took a picture of it. It was pretty cool.
That's
Um,
awesome though.
but it's just things like that I think the best thing about collecting, with saying that, is being able to be excited about things like that and having people to share them with. I think that's great with
Well,
the movie
you know
community.
what's funny? I've never realized that I could pass on my things to a kid. I've always said like my urn's going to be made of vinyl. Like I've always had the idea that I will die with my belongings. Like you know how people throw in like their best jewelry? You're just going to
Who are you, a pharaoh? Like,
like I just always imagine like I've always said like and people are like, "Oh my god, why do you open that, Criterion? Why don't you keep it?" Like my
who
parents all the time are like,
cares?
"You got a limited edition record. Why aren't you keeping it in its packaging?" I'm like, "Cuz I'm going to play it and I'm going to die with it. That's why."
Like,
Like I
you
some
can
just some
lie.
things I don't have the intention on selling.
You don't want to give it to like your kid or a kid?
I never even thought of it. I never even thought that I'd never thought for a second I'd have a kid as weird as me going like, "Hey, you want this Nina Rota? Can I have your Nina Rota album?"
You gotta raise them right.
I
Okay. You gotta
try.
have them. My kid is gonna like right. It doesn't have a choice. 2 years old, we will be watching La Dolce Vita. It's going to be an aristocrat. That's what I've decided. Paolo accepted it.
Yeah, they're gonna be watching like Transformers 18, and I'm gonna be like, shut up, sit down, and watch 49th Parallel with me.
This is why we're going to raise the children together.
That is true.
Two
That
little
is true. But
two,
I really never thought of like tossing down like my lineage of Criterion. I never thought of that. I honestly never thought of it. I'm just thinking like, oh yeah, I'll be buried with it somehow. Someone will smelt it.
all of you think. I mean, at least give it to a museum if you don't want to give it to your kid. You have some amazing stuff.
Dude, no, I'm literally thinking like, no, I'll smelt everything into a coffin.
Steph, I just keep thinking of like the pharaohs. That's what it reminds me of, that they were buried with all their stuff. Is that what you're going to be buried in a crypt?
Yeah, I mean, but like, how cool would it be if, like, you know, God forbid, like, I'm dead in a casket and you're viewing at me, and then all of a sudden you kind of peek through the linens and you see the cover on the waterfront, you know, peeping through, and you realize that I'm buried. I'm sitting on top of all my Criterions. You're gonna be like, I knew it. I knew it. Like, you're gonna like. You're either going to think like, wow, that's so her, or think, God damn it, I would have loved that DVD. And maybe people would just reach in. Maybe I'll do, oh my God, my funeral will have a $5 bin basket like at Walmart with all my collectibles.
They just bit off your stuff? That's it?
No. You got to dumpster dive for that. You know, you got to dive like how you would in the $5 movie bin.
Like a brawl.
Kind of, but like no one knows the value of everything. That's why it's set at $5. And you just go with your gut. And if you get something, you know, if you get my Wolfenstein Collector's Edition albums, go ahead. You're the winner. Congratulations.
I can see it going from like your most valuable item to like the Nacho Libre Blu-ray. I could just see it ranging from that.
Yeah, probably that. Or it'll probably be no, like you go in and you're like really hoping to grab on my Marlon Brando death mask that I have, the half slab concrete face I have of him, and you go in, you pull up Danger 5 on Blu-ray. That's what it's gonna be.
I feel like that's still great.
But how about this? Here's a deal, a morbid deal that I'm going to make. If I die before I'm 60, you take all my movie stuff and you split it amongst everyone how you feel fit. I will not
have this talk. We are getting matching.
But if I don't, if I'm living till I'm like over 70 years old, no one's touching my stuff.
Listen.
I die with it.
I thought we agreed we were getting matching tattoos at 70. So
70? I'm ready for 30. You kidding me? That's when my body will really start aging.
I thought you wanted to get your dragon tattoo at 30.
Dude, I told you, when I hit 30, I'm going to go in the process of Jolieing. I'm going to go vegan. I'm going to do some nice, good humanitarian stuff. Not that foo-foo crap that people do and be like, to get on, like, you know, their good scholarships and whatnot. No, I'm going to go and I'll stay in an African nation for like 3 months and get malaria. And I'll do the Lord's work. And then I'll get, you know, tattooed. I'm going to be a size 0. I'm going to get tattooed. A lot of it I don't even understand because it's not in my language. You know, I just went up to an old Tibetan woman in the mountains and I said, give me what you got. And she just gave me a stick and poke. I'm not going to know what it means, but I'll know the experience.
This is your plan?
That's been my plan for like, it's been my plan. It's called Jolieing.
I didn't know about everything else.
Yeah, I'm going to get a dragon tattoo. I'm going to get like just a bunch of like Arabic sayings and meanings, just good stuff. Not like
me up for a matching one.
Well, yeah, of course.
Why not?
Of course. You want to go with me? You want to fly to Tibet with me? There's actually an old woman in Tibet that like is like 102 years old and does stick and poke tattoos and has been doing it for like 90 years.
We're 30. I don't know if she's going to be around.
Oh, dang, that's right. Well, maybe her daughter, who's like in her 80s right now, will take over.
Hey, look, we'll figure it out. I'm just down for the ride.
I can't wait for me to get a tattoo in a foreign country, only to find out my body's going to reject it and I'm going to get really ill for it.
That's another thing we need to think about. Your body, yeah. We need to be careful.
I spend so much money and so much time and hours climbing up the mountains to be tattooed by this woman, only for it to fall off as a scab 4 days later because my body rejected it because I just got randomly sick because the celiac disease has overridden the tattoo.
This is a storyline. This is a storyline for your life.
It's not the storyline. It's just my life. It's just a 10-year glimpse into my life where I'm gonna be when I'm 34.
We need to start thinking of matching tattoo ideas at some point. We need to have it set.
We got to get a tattoo that symbolizes purple moon.
Oh yeah.
But I don't like colored tattoos. I just want all black tattoos.
Yeah, I don't. And PN is a little no. We got to think of something else.
Yeah, PM would be weird. Maybe a sexy portrait of Alain Delon. I'd be willing, as long as it's small enough, you know.
I don't think Paula would appreciate that.
Oh my god, I just realized that. I just realized what our tattoo should be.
What?
It should be the signature that Alain Delon does. The signature that he copies, the Philip Greenleaf, over and over again.
Oh my god, let me look that up. I know what you're talking about.
And it's in a pretty cursive. Dude, I totally get it.
We're just gonna have Philip Greenleaf?
I mean, it could be in the style, it could say Purple Noon, but in the same handwriting.
What is his name in the original?
Is it Philip Greenleaf? Yeah, I thought it was Philip Greenleaf.
Oh, no, yes, I thought it was Ducky.
I forget that.
That was Ducky. I was like, wait, I can't have Ducky tattooed on me. It definitely, yeah. Purple
Dude, the way it sounds like you're typing, it literally sounds like typing from like an early 2000s video game. It doesn't even sound real. You're typing on the keyboard. It sounds like a almost like a 8-bit game. Like if someone was going to the computer on like a Cartoon Network game, like, you know, Courage the Cowardly Dog going on the computer and just yeah, it totally did sound real. I just thought of
the little keyboard thing, so that could be it.
Oh, the little like covers, right?
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, just get a little Purple Noon, but in like the same little scribble.
Just a scribble?
Well, you know what I mean. Like a little autograph, but it's done in Alain Delon's handwriting.
Oh, it is a nice signature, though.
Yo, I know his daughter's Instagram. I can hit her up and just be like, hey, can you please tell your dad to like write out Purple Noon?
We have a whole podcast dedicated to your father.
But yeah, by the way, big fans. Our podcast is named Purple Noon. And your father may be our mascot, but nonetheless, can you just ask him to do this? We're not crazy. We're just dedicated.
We're gonna get blocked. We're gonna get a restraining order or something.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'd really like to talk to his son, Elaine Fabian.
I feel like maybe he'd be more understanding. No?
I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it would look very nice, very pretty. I feel like it would look great. I'm definitely down to do that.
Greenleaf. That'd be cool.
No, I'm saying do Purple Noon, but in the same signature style as he's writing Greenleaf. I think it would be weird. I do think it would be weird if you, a married woman, and me, someone who's currently taken, just have a male character's name written on us.
I didn't think it'd be Philip Greenleaf. I thought we were just doing like Greenleaf. Make it.
No. No. I'm saying, Savanna, I am saying to take the same type of signature, but instead of writing Philip Greenleaf on our bodies, I'm saying to get Purple Noon.
Okay, that's better. That's better.
You're just looking up pictures of Philip Greenleaf. And
looking up at the signature.
I can't. I really can't. Oh my god. Was there anything else you have to say on Beast of No Nation or 49th Parallel?
It was fantastic. I give it a 9.5.
I give it 10 out of 10 because I think it's very important and I think it's a must watch at least once in your life.
Yeah.
But other than that, sorry, we just totally sidetracked. Talked about my 10-year plan.
We made a plan.
Jolieing. And it's totally fine. It's
tattoo.
Totally fine.
Purple Noon tattoo. And how old are we? 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You have
7 years.
Savannah.
What?
What was that?
I had to count how many years we had.
You literally counted out loud. Oh my
god. 7 years, Stephanie. Oh god.
I can't. Well, thank you. Well, as always, thank you so much to Homeboy James and Sensei David, 2 supporters of our Patreon. And you're like, well, those are chill nicknames. How do I get one? Check out our Patreon. It's the $1 tier link. There's also other tier links as well. We're actually going to be in a little bit going over it and stuff like that because we are gonna start reviewing. It's the time to review the structure of Purple Noon again. So there may be some updates from when you last hear this. Who knows? But other than that, other ways to support us if you don't have the monies, which is totally fine. Like this if you're listening to this on YouTube. Tell your friends, share, whatever you got to do. Follow us on TikTok. All things and stuff like that are linked below. And yeah, we will see you next time. And do you know what I know what we're talking about next time.
What is it? We need some
Next
hints.
time, we're
Yeah.
doing Two Kingdoms, meaning we're talking about Kingdom, the Korean TV show, as well as Kingdom, also known as Riget, by Lars von Trier.
Oh, we're bringing him back. All right.
Bringing him back. It's just one of those things that we can't avoid. We can't avoid it,
He's
If
gonna
no,
find us.
because here, let's be honest, we're the only two people talking about him.
He's gonna find us, and I'm scared.
It's okay. It's okay. Remember that one time I really thought he followed me on Instagram and you kind of like spiraled out for a second?
Yeah, I was not okay.
It
I
was a
was
little
not
bit of a
doing good.
nerve-wracking day for sure. Just thinking, because I literally think we had just kind of did some light smack talking about him in a previous episode, and then I get a notification that's
It was
like,
just some dark jokes. Just some dark jokes.
yeah, nothing like horrendous or anything like that. But essentially, I got a notification from a username, Lars von Trier, but it wasn't verified or anything. So, and that person still follows me. So hopefully, it's not the real deal, him. Because man, right now, no, I don't need that. Maybe later, but not now. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.